Hey everyone, Jordan here at Totally Bored, and in this video, I'll be reviewing The Quest for El Dorado. In The Quest for El Dorado, players take on the role of explorers and must race their way through thick forests, raging waters, sandy islands, and more to be the first to reach the City of Gold. This is a deck building game where players start with the same starting deck of cards, and throughout the course of the game, you will buy new cards to add to your deck, making your turns much stronger in the mid to late game. I'll be breaking this review up into 5 different sections. The first, I'll talk about the gameplay. Second, I will talk about the components. Third, I'll talk about the theme. Fourth, I'll talk about the fun factor. And fifth, I will talk about the cons. In the Quest for El Dorado, each player is going to have the same starting deck, and throughout the course of the game, you'll be able to buy new cards from the shop in order to customize your deck and make it that much stronger in the mid to late game. How you'll be traversing to the City of Gold is by playing different cards. So each card has its own unique ability. For example, one card might let you travel through forests, other cards might let you travel through water, or maybe buy more expensive cards in the shop. This game does also come with double-sided map boards, which is great for replayability and customization. There are also in the rulebook pre-made maps, so if you don't really feel like customizing or making your own, you can just follow the maps that are in the rulebook, so I think that's a nice touch. I think the gameplay is fairly easy to pick up, especially for maybe more experienced gamers who have tried another deck builder. I think it's going to be a breeze to learn this. It could be a little bit overwhelming for brand new players, maybe people who have never played a modern board game. But whenever I played this with my mom and nephew for the first time, we actually went through the shop and we looked at every single card before we even played in order to make sure we understood what each ability did. And I highly recommend doing that because it made the gameplay super smooth. My nephew Hayden, he is a major gamer, so he had no problems. My mom, she's played Wingspan and Patchwork and a few other games, so she's played some, but this was her first deck building experience, but it went really smooth, and I think it was because we went through the shop. I think there is a ton of strategy packed into this lightweight deck builder, and that is one of the strong points of this game. Throughout the course of the game, you have all of these different items in the shop that you're buying and adding to your deck, making your deck that much stronger. You can also strategize by intentionally going into these spaces on the map board that require you to remove a card from your deck. So if you've never played a deck builder before, that's actually a good thing because there are going to be cards in your deck that are very weak and they clog up your hand. So you actually want to thin out your deck and remove those. So I think that is a really nice touch that they included in this game. And I think that is one of the strong points of the gameplay in the Quest for El Dorado. In the updated edition of the Quest for El Dorado, it is going to come with standard American-sized cards, whereas the original version of the game came with mini European cards. And in my opinion, I'm really, really glad that they increased the card size for 2 main reasons. The first being the art. It just has a more of a chance for it to pop, more of a chance for you to appreciate the art, which is really pretty. But more importantly, it's a lot easier to shuffle. Mini European cards are a little fiddly for me. I feel like I'm dropping them everywhere every time I try to shuffle. And if you've never played a deck builder, you're shuffling a lot. So it just feels a lot more natural, a lot more comfortable to have these bigger cards. Another thing is that the game comes with double-sided, thick cardboard, which in my opinion has simple but really vibrant art and just really easy to see. And I think in this type of game that's kind of more important, but that is also in my opinion a pro. I think the cardboard and the quality of the materials in the game feel really nice, they feel sturdy, and they just feel overall really good quality. Another small change that you'll notice if you have the original version is that the meeples included are a little bit different, but in my opinion it does nothing to change the gameplay in any way, so I'm kind of neutral on that, but I did want to point that out in case you did have the original version. Next up, we have the theme. So this is called The Quest for El Dorado. So it is going to be kind of Indiana Jones-esque in nature and in theme, but I personally love that. So regarding the art, I think it is pretty simple art, but it is beautifully drawn. It pops. I really appreciate every single time I pick up a card, just looking at the art and just, the illustrator, Vincent Dutrait, he just did a great job. It's not the craziest art I've ever seen, but it really just kind of completes the whole package when playing this game, and it makes you feel like you're really traversing through an island and you're taking control of these really cool characters. And every card just really has a lot of character, and for that reason, I love it. I do think that this game could probably be reskinned or rethemed kind of to anything, and it would still be a great game. I think that I don't know if I'd say that's a negative, but I don't think the Quest for El Dorado, that kind of theme, makes the game. I think the mechanics in the deck building and just how fluid and just seamless the gameplay is really what makes this game a great game. Next up, we have fun factor. So whether you're playing a solo game or you're playing with a group of your best friends, we're all trying to have fun, and I think that's at the core of what board games should be. Whether you're reviewing a game or you're checking a new game out to see if you like it, you should consider if it's fun, and the Quest for El Dorado is that. It is fun. It's not, revolutionizing board gaming. It's not breaking any boundaries with deck building. It's just a fun, lightweight deck builder that is very approachable. The gameplay is just very seamless. There's a ton of variety. There's not a lot of downtime either. I think the turns are pretty quick. It's even fun to watch your opponent go, which I think a lot of games can't say the same thing. So with that, I think the Quest for El Dorado is phenomenal. It's just super fun. Like I mentioned, there's a ton of replayability and variation with the double-sided game boards, and that's just one more reason why this game is so much fun. Right out of the gate, the biggest con for me is that the Quest for El Dorado does not have a solo mode. And if you've seen some of my other videos, that actually is a pretty big thing for me. I definitely take that into consideration when I'm buying a new board game. I prefer to have that option if I ever want to try it. This doesn't have it, so that knocks it down just a peg in my rating. But another thing is that I think some people could find the gameplay repetitive. I personally love it, but I could easily see how after a couple different playthroughs that some people may not like it or make it a little tired of it, because you are doing the same thing over and over. There are a good amount of cards that allow a lot of variety, but you are just shuffling your cards, moving your character, and that's really it. So that is kind of dependent on the person, but I think it's worth mentioning. A third con I have is that kind of with any deck builder in general, it's luck of the draw, and sometimes it does not work in your favor, and that in turn leads to really unfun games where players who are lagging behind really bad. It's just not fun. It's really not fun for anybody, and that happened during one of my playthroughs. My nephew, he was just getting super unlucky. He could not get a card to get past one of the forest areas, and he was stuck there for so long, and it got to the point where me and my mom were like 2 full game board lengths ahead of him, and by the time we finished, he was like so far behind. And he said he had fun, but you could kind of tell he was a little bit salty about it. But either way, moving on to my fourth and final con with the game is that it can actually be somewhat of a table hog. My desk is, I think, 48 inches in circumference, and so it's not huge. I set up the map, I set up a 3-player game, and then I had the item shop, and it was tight. And I personally think that is a con. I think if a game's massive and you just don't have room for it, that's something to consider when buying a game, especially depending on what size table you have. So those are the 4 main cons I have with this game. So if you couldn't tell from the title of this video, I absolutely love The Quest for El Dorado, and I love it for so many different reasons. The first reason is that this game is just plain fun. Every time I play this, whether it be with a group of friends who have never played a modern board game or some of the nerdiest friends that I have, we all love this game and we all have fun with it. And I think that's just a huge selling point, and it really has a lot of staying power for that reason. In addition to that, it has so much replayability, so much variety due to the double-sided game boards, as well as the item shop, which has a ton of different cards in it, which allows for a lot of different variety in your deck building. I think this is a great entry point for people who have never played a deck builder as well. It's not overly complicated, but it has a good amount of depth and strategy to make it fun and exciting every time you play it. And for that reason, I am going to give the Quest for El Dorado an 8 out of 10. There were a few little things that knocked it down a bit, mostly it being the no solo mode and it being a little bit of a table hog, but all in all, I love this game. I could see myself keeping this for a very long time, and it's something that I just am always excited to bring to the table. So that wraps up my review for the Quest for El Dorado. If you thought this review sucked and you want to beat my comment below why. But if you did like this video, please give me a like and subscribe. This is Jordan here at Totally Bored. I'll see you next time.